I try give a few words to Richard Price.
Yeah, thanks. I'm going to make 3 points really. I'll put this round if anybody hasn't got it, about UK Disability History Month. And this is sort of uniting both those in the disability movement who are fighting against these cuts, but also educationists, trade unions, public community organisations. It's important that we learn the lessons of our own history. This isn't the first time we've had to mobilise disabled people. It isn't even the second, the third or the fourth. There's been endless times that we've had to fight. And every single thing that is now being taken away was fought for by previous generations of disabled people. There is nothing that we've been given that we didn't have to fight for. And I think that's very important, really, that people begin to understand that. I think also underlying all of this is a deeper, Roger sort of puts the different equality areas on a par, and to some extent that's true, but disability is different to all the other equality areas in that it can happen to anybody at any time. And therefore there is an extra thing that people have. If you like, we are people's future, they don't want to see us. And so there's a lot of, as the recent report from the Equality and Human Rights Commission about hate crime towards disabled people says, we're hidden in plain sight. And there's this whole thing about not really accepting the equality of people with physical, mental impairments or psychosocial disabilities. And I think that is why History Month is so important. We want to get, in the end, it's taken 20 years to get Black history doing this, but every school in the country practically does something about it. We want to get that sort of awareness raising going on all over the place, in every college, every university, every workplace. So you've got the forms and affiliation form there. Do try and organise something. It doesn't have to be in a month, it's just a focal point. It can be before and after. We've already got stuff starting in October, going through to February. Probably next year, go all through the year, but I don't really mind as long as the focus is on it. Second thing I want to say is I am the representative of the British Disability Movement in Europe on the European Disability Forum. I believe many of you probably won't know there is a disability forum. It's based in Brussels, and while it's quite bureaucratic, it is also our main means of getting the position of the 80 million disabled people in the European Union, get their views into the European Parliament. So that's important. There's an awful lot of anti-European feeling that is being whipped up as a popular thing. If you watch Question Time on Thursday, actually disabled people in this country have gained a great deal by being in Europe. There shouldn't be any disabled people who are against being in Europe, because the fact that we can actually be employed by every workplace, not that they do, but they can be taken for prejudice. The government here only wants to bring in that legislation for workplaces that employ more than 15 people. It was the European Single Employment Directive that forced the issue. And the same is the case on practically all of the things that we've got. So Europe is a very important area for us to counterpose to this extremely right-wing government. And the reason why that's important is we've got this Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities that we've got through the UN in 2006. The European Union as a whole has signed up to this. The British government signed up to it, and under Labour they put in all sorts of reservations. The Tories are not intending to implement it at all and are working as well as they can to get rid of all human rights legislation. You know this is on their agenda. So using Europe is really important to force them back. And we can use it in the courts because actually both the European legislation and the international legislation, for instance Article 12, which would apply very much to people having freedom of choice over the medical provisions made to them, is very important. And so we need to educate ourselves about how to use what's already there, because if we don't use it, it will go. And these have been things that have been fought for very hard. So on the European side, we do have a strategy, a 10-year strategy for introducing full equality for disabled people across Europe. And there's very little connection between what's going on here in our offshore island and what's happening in mainland Europe. But clearly, as we heard from the platform this morning, the same things are happening. So we really need to start joining up the disability activists across Europe to push issues. And so I just thought I'd let people know that that's there. You can look at the European Disability Forum, they've got a website. It is mainly bureaucratic, but it is also just representative of disability organisations across Europe. And so if we push them, then we can get more radical policies into compulsory sterilisation was introduced the month that the National Socialists got into power in Germany, and 500,000 people were compulsory sterilised. They then had a big publicity job to do to convince the Catholic Church and the Protestant Church to support mass murder, right, which they did. The Pope and the leader of the German Church both signed off to the mass murder program in Germany. Now this is little known history that needs to be remembered, that people, like the churches, will sway with the wind. And because the Nazis were in power, there were very few people who would stand out against it. They also needed to persuade the families of the people in Germany to give up their disabled members for mercy killing. And so they made 7 propaganda films which were shown in every cinema throughout Germany every week, so that people actually got brainwashed into doing this. And this is a very serious attack on the useless eaters, as we would call. Now we're beginning to see that rhetoric coming in again, about the worthy poor and the unworthy poor. And we will become soon the useless eaters, wasting resources. And we have to challenge this and show what has happened in the past. That's another reason why disability history is so important. I'll stop there.
Okay, yes, so I'll open up to debate now, so look at that.
Carol Vincent, East London. I just want to actually carry on from what you were saying about disability can happen to anybody at any time. I've got a 38-year-old daughter who has